family. This is Short Fall from Fellowship Unity Work. I'm here to talk to you today about 9 traits of a high value man. The purpose of this video is so that we can learn, 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 so that we can evolve. And as we evolve, we can help others with their aspirations. We can grow into our own aspirations and thus help others with their aspirations, so that we can all become renewed and revolutionary new beings. So that's the purpose of learning. And I wanted to go over this because the term high value man is a very kind of hot topic, or there's a lot of opinions and people putting out different videos about it. And so this is to neither condemn nor condone any of that, but just wanted to kind of give my take on some of it, because what I'm seeing is that a lot of the videos, a lot of the conversations about high value men, high value women, they're based on basically European patriarchy, you know, which is basically a toxic masculinity. And that's yet another buzz term, but it's based on these things that, are really not serving any of us. It's not serving us as individuals, and it's not serving society to have these value systems. And we have to, we can look within and look at society and see, have these value systems actually worked for us, or as individuals, or with our family and society. And it's time to take that type of, introspection, look within, introspect, to look within, and then look at society as a whole as well, and see if these things actually work for us. And I think what we'll see is that in many cases, the value system, the very thing, the crux of what we call a high value man, is nothing more or less than the old auction block type of way of thinking. And to put someone, put a being, another sovereign being, up on a auction block, and to see their value. And is not based on a way that is natural. It's based on a way that is distorted, that has been, made artificial from a natural way of being. And so the first thing I would say is that the first trait of a evolved man, or God being, or God man, or good man, is that he has a healthy relationship with the feminine. I put this as number one because of the times that we're in. Maybe there would be other traits that would be more important at other times, but since we don't live in a balanced society, since we live in a patriarchal society, we're not trying to go to a matriarchal society. What we're looking to do is to try to have an evolved and balanced society that takes all of those traits. And when we say feminine and masculine, we are not talking about gender, or genitals. We're talking about modes of being that are in all beings, regardless of your gender. And there are more than two genders. I know in this society we have been taught that there's two genders. In my opinion, we have many different ways that people can show up in their expressions of their sensual or sexual being, that goes beyond, again, their genitals. So anyway, with that being said, though, the a high value man, or as I like to say again, an evolved man, is one who can have a proper relationship, a healing relationship with the feminine. First, it starts with the feminine in himself. Where has patriarchy, where has sexism in the man himself been skewed and been basically fucked with, to the point of maybe causing different wounds and everything, mother wounds and different things that need to heal within themselves, because we all come here basically more or less feminine. And what I mean is that we, as young children, we're like a sponge. We're in a receptive mode, which is feminine. For us to put a titty in our mouth from our mother, or a bottle, or a pacifier, and to be in this trance-like state where we're picking up languages and learning new things at a very fast rate. That's all receptiveness. That's a feminine trait. So we come here more or less, all of us, in a very feminine state, and then the masculine comes online more and more. But to be an evolved man, beyond just being a high value man, to be an evolved man is to have a proper relationship with the feminine. And on this planet, there is a deep need for healing, first in each one of us, and then in society in general. When we talk about high value man or women, you know, oftentimes, people may throw out different names or different, examples, but we have to remember in a patriarchal society that's been that way for thousands of years now, many of the high value women, not little girls, but high value women, we don't even know their names. They created space, or they made womb so that different men, or male gendered beings could go forward and do different things, and their names have been forgotten through the annuals of time. So that's something to understand, is that when we talk about a high value man or an evolved man, uh, they have a proper and healthy relationship with the feminine. Number two is that they bring something of value to the planet. So they bring something of value to this plane, to this planet. They bring something of value to life and to society. I got I've watched a couple of different videos to have different, to see what different people out there are saying about high value man. And I liked something that the sister Courtney Ryan had said. I'll put her link down below along with some others. But I resonated with basically all five of her traits. And number one, because it was quite refreshing, because a lot of different videos out there, the first thing that comes out most people's mouth about high value is that you have to make money. I'm going to go into that in a second, but before I go into that, the trait of bringing something of high value to society is to bring something that is going to change this motherfucker, because we have to understand, or we can understand. We don't have to do shit, but we can understand that this setup, this system is not working for everyone. Most people who are not in westernized societies, a lot of people, and then there's a good portion of people still even in Western society, but a lot of people in Western societies, we have what I like to call American or Western privilege, which means we don't have to live in survival mode. Now, again, I know in some of the ghettos and favelas and trailer parks and barrios, there is still very much a survival level, but there's still lots of people in westernized societies, in American society, whatever, that don't have to live on a complete survival level. And so, with that being said, to be a high value man or to be an evolved man is someone who's looking, who understands that relationship and doesn't just sit in his male privilege. I have a series about the different privileges. He doesn't just sit in his male or man privilege, but is actually looking to change these things in some way and bring something of value to the society. So that would be for me trait number two. Trait number three, it flows into trait number two and three flow into each other, because these are all like a DNA helix, right? They all flow into each other. Is the trait number three is that they tend to be a visionary. They tend to be a visionary, someone who can see the world not as it is, but as it could or should be. And I'd rather, I guess, go more to could, because that it should be, that's subjective, but that it could be something different. um, and they're a visionary, and they speak in this way, and they act in this way, and they have ideas in that way, and then they put actions towards those things to change this world. So they have a visionary quality. I know some people say, well, it's a cold world out there, and the marketplace says that, again, that you have to have money and that you have to have social value and these different things and everything. And a visionary is not looking at any of those things, because a visionary sees the world as it could be. And they have an not an ego, but an eagle vision of things and see things at a higher plane of awareness of being more evolved and how to work towards these things, and comes up with plans and schematics about how to make that happen. And so that to me is a high value trait. That is a trait of a high value man, or AKA evolved being or evolved man, that we want to look for. And another thing on that is that, so we talk about that marketplace thing. The marketplace right now is fucked up. So if we're going to let the marketplace, aka society, aka the value system of this world, which again is European patriarchy in nature, that does not value life. I'll get more into that in a second. But values profit. If we're going to allow that system to dictate to us what our values are, we're going to be fucked up beings. Period. We're going to be fucked up, and we're just going to perpetuate more of the same. The Yoruba people of Nigeria, Ifa, that religion, they talk about that life is a marketplace. That we come down here, we incarnate in the flesh, so that we can come down here and exchange different things, different experiences in the marketplace. So a visionary, again with trait number 3, a visionary is looking at what the marketplace could be, rather than being dictated to by what is currently going on in the marketplace. And so the last thing I'll say on that with the visionary thing is that they are also agents of change. They are they're visionaries and they're agents of change. They are not looking to be validated by a broken system. They are not looking to be validated by a broken system, and they are looking to be an agent of change, to change the different isms in themselves and then in society. And Kirti and me, we have a acronym, racism, that stands for the different isms. You have the R is for racism, the A is for ageism or ableism, the C is for classism, the I is for intellectualism, the S is for sexism, and the M is for materialism. And a evolved man or a high value man is looking to see where those different isms are alive in them. Do they have sexism? Are we still thinking in a binary way, man, woman, and these gender roles that have been placed on us by, again, European patriarchy? Or are we looking to dissect it and at least question these things? Materialism, putting so much value on material things. Nothing wrong with having nice things, but do we unpack and look at where we even got these? Why do we want the Gucci, belt and the Rolex and stuff? Like, unpack these things and see where we got these different value systems. See where we got these isms: the racism, the ableism, and ageism, the classism, the intellectualism, the sexism, and materialism. That is what a high value man or evolved masculinity, even if it's masculinity in a woman, because many women have been programmed to be toxic masculine. So what an evolved being is looking to do is to look and see, to be a visionary, and then also see how we can be an agent of change. So trait number 4 is that they value life. That they value life. A high value man, high value masculinity, or evolved man, evolved masculinity is it values life. Values life. Very tantric in that way. That life is a valuable thing, and that it is something to be valued and treasured and cherished, right? So we're not going to place dollars and dead presidents, above a person. And so a truly high value being, high value man, high value masculinity is not going to put too much value on dead presidents. George Washington, Andrew Jackson, Thomas Jefferson, Ben Franklin, even Abraham Lincoln, who did not free the slaves. He just changed the ownership from privatized, meaning Johnson and all the slave owners, Southern slave owners with their last names. He changed over the the quote unquote ownership from the private to the federal and state. So that now if you become a prisoner, because you committed a crime, then you would now become a prisoner, aka slave. So even Lincoln, so any of those different presidents or luminaries of the revolutionary times of the founding fathers, they were slave owners. So why am I going to step up? Or why are we going to put someone else, a human being, uh, up on a auction block and say that their value is how much dead presidents they can make? Again, how fucked up is it for us in this day and time to still be using a system that values dead presidents in a made up system, something that is artificial, something that is arbitrary and made up by the Federal Reserve and inflation rates and all these different things that does not even exist? That is not natural. That is a man made concept that we put value on. How are we going to say that making money determines a person's value? Making these dead presidents, making crypto, uh, having credit, which is nothing more than debt, which nature does not know debt. Debt is not natural. That is a man-made concept. A European patriarchal society level concept. And I know that debt goes further back than even that, but in today's modern world, that's where these things come from. And we're going to say that that's the value of a man or of a woman or any being, so be it. If the God in you says yes to that, and if that's what you want to sign the contracts for and keep signing up and perpetuate that, so be it. The genie in you, your genes, the genie in you will say, and so it is. I don't see that. And if you're watching this video, I would bet that the visionary in you doesn't see it either. Ashe? And so it is. And another thing on that is like, okay, yeah, it's like if you watch some of these different high value, high value man videos, it's like the number one thing that they'll say is that the man needs to make money. Okay, and make money for what? To buy different things, to buy like what, a Benz or a Beamer. Do you know that the Benz and the Beamer, either directly or indirectly, both of them were connected to the Holocaust in different ways? Hitler was riding around in the Benz, and that one of the chief uh, uh, shareholders of, I think it was Benz, that they had some stake from the Third Reich or whatever, and then the same thing more or less with Beamer, with the BMW. And this is what we want. And yeah, okay, maybe they apologize, whatever, give a fuck. They didn't give that money back, and you can't give back the lives to those Jewish people that cooked in those goddamn ovens. And that is the standard that this makes us valuable, driving around in these? What? And I know some people say that's urban legend. No, it's not. These were German companies that in one way or the other benefited from the Nazi Third Reich. And then what's another one? Rolex. We want a Rolex. Don't want it to TikTok. We want a Rolex. The fuck is that? Like where they get those golds, the gold from? Where they get the diamond from? How many people, indigenous people, have died so that we can have a Rolex? How many of those indigenous people were treated fairly, and or was it exploitation and land steals and stuff, land grabs? Was it rape or was it reap? And that's what we want. That's a symbol of value that a man walks into a meeting and he has on a Rolex. Okay, and then to wear a pair of Jordans or something. You know, I've always wanted a pair, but when I think about it, it's like they're made in sweatshops. We pay $200, $300 for a pair of Jordans that are made in a sweatshop. I've never had a pair of Jordans, never could afford them. My mom couldn't afford them. We always get some lower priced Nikes or something like that. If ever I have a pair of Jordans, because I do like one of the new versions that's out. I definitely like the player edition ones. Um, to me, the player edition ones are the dopest ones, but you can't get your hands on them because they're player editions. They're only for the players. But with that, why do we value these different things? If ever I have a pair, my goal is to get some on sale for 100 or under. Because here's the thing, we have to pick our battles, right? Don't need to ride around in a Benz or a Beamer or a Ferrari or Lamborghini or any of these fancy cars necessarily to be a high value being on this planet, to be an evolved being. No knock if the God in you wants to do that, do that. But my point is that we have to pick our battles, because basically everything that we go to do in this corrupt system, one way or the other, is feeding the distortion. What I mean is, like, when I go to the grocery store to buy something, many of the times the food is coming from a place where the people have not been treated fairly. The land is not being valued, and maybe being manipulated in order to get those crops and everything. The animals, if we eat animals, how they've been treated. Again, I told you, a high value man values life, right? All life. So with these different things, then I gas up after I leave the grocery store, I gas up my car. Exxon and Chevron and BP, and the blood that's behind all these different oil companies. And I'm doing that in my Benz or Beamer, and I run my credit card in each one of the major financial institutions. They can be linked to slavery. So how do I get out of this system? If I'm not living off the grid, butt naked in the woods, as my lady says, then I'm still playing a part, even unwillingly, in this. So if day-to-day life still means that, every time I flick the light and it's the gas and electric company that is not doing things right by the environment or by the people, I can't get out of it to a certain extent. So in the places that I don't have to participate, I would say don't do that. And that would be one of the things that a high value man or evolved man would come to that understanding. So the fifth trait is that a high value man or evolved man does not seek social proof or validation because from the system, to be more exact, because as we already talked about, the system is corrupt to the motherfucking core, to its roots. So let's give an example, like, because I know this social proof thing is another trait for a lot of people who talk about high value men. Let's say that a CEO of a Fortune 500 company like Monsanto walks in, like, so you have four men that walk in. CEO of Monsanto, head of marketing at Bank of America, and a plastic surgeon from LA, and then someone who just tells us that they're an entrepreneur. Now, some people would, a lot of us out here actually who think of a high value man, we would say that three of these people already have social proof and that they are high value men just because of their ranks in these different corporations. I would say that a high value man, right off the bat, what we would do is have a conversation with all four of these people to see what their consciousness is and how they think and where their heart is. Because I'm not going to judge them just for having those positions, but see where their head and hearts are. And if they really are higher value, they're trying to get out of those systems sooner than later. Some people may be like, oh, they're going to try to change it. You're the CEO of Monsanto or some Fortune 500, and you're going to. We know that this system is so corrupt. If you're really about that, life, you're going to end up dead if you're trying to do that in those systems. Best to get out of that and have an exit plan, be stacking your chips and your stock options and stuff while you're in that position to be able to get out that motherfucker, get out that plantation and run for the North Star as soon as possible. So I would say out of those three, out of those four, three of them right off the bat, in my opinion, they're playing a role at a very high level at perpetuating and keeping this beast moving forward. If anything, don't put them as high value. Ishaku Musu Barashango, said that, back in the day in the 60s, and you've heard me say this before possibly, that in coming up in Philly in the 60s, that a sister, a black woman, would walk up to, if a black man approached them and was interested in them, they ask you right off the bat, what are you doing for the people? Are you part of the Black Panthers? Are you part of this? Like, what are you doing for? And if you're not doing that, then you get no pussy, you know? And so those three that we already pointed out, if anything, they're doing things to keep us all in bondage and in slavery to a certain extent. So don't place them as high value. And then that fourth person, the one that just said that they're an entrepreneur, now that one may have some hope, because if they're an entrepreneur and they're not in these corporate settings, maybe there's some hope for this person, because maybe they're doing something a little bit more revolutionary, and at least they don't have a boss to answer to, and to me, I would rank that as even more high value, because they're able to be more free. Amen. So the number 6 trait is that they balance selflessness and selfishness. They balance that. And so on the left hand side, the feminine side of our being, I would say that that is more selfless. That is being selfless. And that can be a fault. We can be too selfless, not even taking care of ourselves. And then on the other hand, on the right hand is like being selfish and being able to draw boundaries and put up borders and say, no, I need this first. And that's selfishness. And a high value man, a high value masculinity, an evolved man, an evolved masculinity is able to balance between selflessness and selfishness. And in between the less and the ish is self. Self is in the middle. And self is not just our being, it is our woman or women that are in our life, our elders, our children. KRS-One said that, little boys still trying to get the cars and this and that, and a man is going to wake up and like, how are my kids? What shape are my kids in? How are they doing today? Have they ate? Do they have shelter? Got good clean clothes on their back? He's going to also ask about how his woman is doing today. Does she need a massage? Does she needs some good conscious D on her? Some good XEX and everything. And that is what a man is going to do. And he's not going to be chasing skirts and everything. He's in a different place and everything. He's not looking to have money so that he can like peacock in order to bring, little girls in, basically. Not women, but little girls. So with that being said, but that all comes from balancing the self. Between the selfless and the selfishness is the self. And understanding that the self is an expanded, the oneness of, as I do things in me and shift things in me, I am now doing that also in society. Aho. And so trait number 7 is that if you're balancing the selflessness and the selfishness, and we're in a place of self, SELF, being a spiritually evolved life force, understanding that you are a life force or a light force or a loving force. SELF, a central evolving life force or loving force on this planet. So if that's yourself, then you have a high level of sex. And the sex is not lowercase sex, it is SEX, sensual emotional exchange. Again, trait number 1 was that the highly evolved man or evolved masculinity, a high value man, a high value masculinity has the proper relationship with the feminine. How do we have that balanced relationship with the feminine? SEX, sensual emotional exchange. That we are able to be orgasmic ourselves, be blissful ourselves, balance, peace, and the other evolved traits of being, be able to bring wisdom and love onto this planet, onto this plane, and then help our women, our beautiful women, to be able to do the same, so that they can be more expressed and they can be free and orgasmic and sacred freaks. You know what I'm saying? And open in their breast orgasms and shit like that. That is what an evolved man is doing. And some examples to the best of their ability. None of these beings that I'm about to say, so trait number 8, I'm going to give some examples of what I think are some evolved men. And by no means are any of these men perfect. They have their faults, some of them to a big fault, but they had traits that we're talking about here. So these are some of the men that I feel like, again, had those traits. Again, none of them are perfect. In fact, if you dig a little bit on them, they all have their dirt. Who doesn't? So I always like to say that the word saint has the word ain't in it. But with that being said, they did the best that they could in most cases. And so these are some of some, in my opinion, some examples of high value men. We have Fred Hampton, freedom fighter, Black Panther, died at age 20, 21 years old because the system knew that he was a high value man and that he was actually here to do something, to make change, to be a visionary. So he was killed. Nikola Tesla, who was marginalized by J.P. Morgan. Nikola Tesla, who Elon Musk named the car after, Nikola Tesla, he wanted to give free wireless electricity, not wireless communication, wireless electricity to the world, meaning that we don't have to plug our electronics up to get electricity. He had a working model for this. He went to J.P. Morgan to get that thing financed, and J.P. Morgan, the famous financial, behind Chase Bank or some of these other banking institutions. Again, remember, all the major financial institutions have connections to slavery. And JP, he came to him and said that he wanted to get the financing so that he could make electricity wireless. And JP Morgan was like, well, how much we charging for that? And Tesla was like, we're gonna give it away free. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Free? Man, cancel that. I ain't helping you with that shit. So Nikola Tesla, this was a sometimes when we think of sages, we think of like someone sitting in the Andes mountains, or up in India, or Chinese seafood, or in Africa in the jungle somewhere, Native American or something. That's true. But then we also had some sages of European descent that were like sages of technology, and they were trying to the best of their ability to bring forth technology that would have been at a higher level, and that would take human beings to another plane. And those patents were put, either destroyed or put on hold somewhere in Congress, and we don't even know that they exist. And Nikola Tesla was one of those people. Geronimo, Apache, fighting the U.S. forces to keep his land. Che Guevara, controversial figure, because he was communist and with Castro, okay, whatever, but at the core, I believe he was a good person. He drove his motorcycle from Argentina. He was a doctor, and he went from Argentina, I think, to Peru. And during that time, he was writing his diary and stuff. They have a book a book and a movie about it called The Motorcycle Diaries by Che Guevara, and talks about how that experiencing, because he was from an upper middle class family, I think, in Argentina. It changed him. He was able to see how so many people were living in poverty, and it changed him and made him a revolutionary. That is a high value man. Patrice Lumumba, African freedom fighter. Marcus Garvey, Sitting Bull, Lakota, from the Lakota people. Wilhelm Reich, who was trying to let us know about the organ or orgasmic energy, and that orgasm is a natural power source, and this guy was laughed at and shut down and called the quack and everything. But through the energy work that is on this planet, with the central emotional exchange, we know that this is a legit power source that he was tapping into. Um, and so Wilhelm Reich, Kwame Nkrumah, another from the continent of Africa, another freedom fighter. Malcolm X, of course. Uh, Martin Luther King, and lastly, a brother by the name of Ken Bridges. Um, Ken Bridges, he was another one who he was uh, basically assassinated during those whole DC riots. But this was a brother that was pushing for reparations and had a network marketing company called Mata. This brother was shut down. Most people don't even know about him. And I can't also forget, that just coming to mind, another one, Osho. Osho. So these are just some examples. And again, these are men of high value, but there's so many women, that we never even heard of that made womb for a lot of these different men, and because of patriarchy, we don't even hear from them. So if we're going to talk about high value men, let's look at freedom fighters. Let's look at people who are trying to change society, like some of those examples that I gave. Lastly, and wrapping this up, I would say trait number 9, in my opinion, again, and all of this is again from my own understanding, inner and overstanding. If this doesn't resonate with you, I get it. That's fine. We all have our different takes on things. But number 9 is that a high value man or high value masculinity, an involved masculinity, an involved man is at the end knows that they are God in the flesh, and that they see the womb being, aka the womb man, or as I like to say, the womb being is goddess in the flesh, and that is a trait to know that your connectedness as God on the flesh. Like instead of saying like, oh, it's a cold world in the marketplace and got to make money and all that shit. Like no, you got in the flesh. You say to this reality what you want, and you affirm it, and it will do and start to bend. You can bend reality. So why keep accepting reality as it is? Why not bend it and make a different world that works for all of us? And so being God in the flesh and speaking from that place of power, then we begin to make this thing change and to expect different from ourselves and then from society. And we do that by bringing the house of the man, the different qualities and traits of masculinity to be a warrior, to be a hunter, to be a healer, and to be able to have that eagle vision and see things, visionary. We bring these different traits online so that we can have a different level of masculinity that is conducive to life. And that is trait number 9, being God in the flesh. Ashe, Aho, Amen. Okay, so that's just some. There's other traits. I'm going to actually be speaking. I plan to do a video later with Kirti as well to get some of her feedback and ideas and ideation on what a high value man is. Let me know in the comments below what you think of that. Is there something that you would add? You have some comments on some of the things that I said. Please make some comments below. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and share it with other people. And again, I'm Shofar from Full Show Energy Work. I do energy work for couples and singles. I have a book, Sacred Orgasmic Living. Sacred Orgasmic Living that goes into some of these things about SEX, Sensual Emotional Exchange. Kirti and me also have workshops and webinars that we're doing. As a matter of fact, we're in the process of filming our webinar slash modules for our online courses. So if any of these things that I said resonated with you, if you look over my YouTube channel and you like the different things that I talk about, reach out to me. I'll put my email here, and you can reach out to me and ask to be notified when the webinar and the modules are ready, and to see if that's a fit for you. If you would like to go deeper into these things and learn how you can be a high value man or woman or being on this planet. Okay, and so again, thank you for tuning in, um, and keep that sex in your life. Keep shining, keep evolving, and do so exponentially. Peace.